Hello friends, welcome to this session of MOOCs course about the Buddhist tourism. In this video, we are going to discuss one of the most prominent Buddhist center of South Asia called Ratnagiri. I am Dr. Sunil Patnaik from Institute of Maritime and Southeast Asian Studies, Bhubaneswar. In this video, we will understand the tourist attraction of Ratnagiri, the celebrated Buddhist site, the dimensions of Buddhism in Mahayana and Vajrayana faith, and Ratnagiri as a learning center. So, first let me introduce Ratnagiri excavated Buddhist site. Ratnagiri, otherwise called the Hill of Jewels, is an isolated outcrop of chondrolite formation of the Asia range, abruptly rising in the midst of a wide expanse and alluvial plain. Ratnagiri latitude is 20 degree 38 minutes north and longitude 86 degree 20 minutes east. It is situated on the banks of Keluo between the rivers of Brahmani and Birupa at a distance of about 5.5 kilometers from Udayagiri and 12.5 kilometers from the Lalitgiri via Bandreshwar and Kalasari Gopalpur and 100 kilometers from Bhubaneswar. The archaeological remains pertaining to Buddhism have been reported since 1906 in Bengal District Gazetteer by Manmohan Chakrabarti. Afterwards, recognized the tantric character of some of the Buddhist images and felt for the first time the potentiality of the remains buried under earth. In 1927-28, Ramprasad Chanda of Indian Museum visited this site to collect some of the images. His description of the images is also very meager. Again, in 1928, H.C. Chakaldar and Nirmal Kumar Bose explored the three hills of Lalitgiri, Ratnagiri, Udayagiri and their findings published in the Modern Review, which created an awareness among the public regarding the protection of the site. Shortly after the exploration of this scholar, Narayan Tripathi brought to public notice by publishing the first plate of Somanchi copper plate charter in 1930. Henceforward, writes Devala Mitra, Ratnagiri, particularly its sculpture, started getting recognition in the scholarly works of art. Then R.D. Banerjee noticed Ratnagiri and mentioned in his General Survey of Plastic Art of Odisha and felt that the stupa which Hwensang saw to the northeast of the stone stupa of Puspagiri or Puspagiri monastery was located at Ratnagiri. Dipigos attempted to study the Buddhist images of Ratnagiri comparing to the Buddhist images of Java. Subsequently, P. Acharya and S. C. Chandra have brought to limelight the importance of these ruins. Niharanjan Rai also studied and published the art trends and peculiarities exhibited by the sculptures of Ratnagiri. N.K. Sahu, while giving systematic account of the growth and development of Buddhism in Odisha, also took notice of this establishment and published photographs of 8 sculptures of Ratnagiri. Charles Fabry and host of others also attempted to study the art and architecture of Ratnagiri. Finally, the Archaeological Survey of India conducted a large-scale excavation which continued from 1958 to 1962. Since then, the vast ruins have been taken for study by a host of scholars. Though the remains of Ratnagiri brought to limelight through the excavation, it was the sole site in Odisha having such a vast settlement till 1985. In the year 1985 and afterwards, the 2 other neighbouring sites were taken for large-scale excavation by Archaeological Survey of India and laid bare huge establishments even greater than the Ratnagiri. As already mentioned, the site was first noticed by Manmohan Chakrabarti in 1905, the subdivisional officer of Jaspur. Subsequently, several scholars visited the site and reported their exploratory findings for over the next 50 years until the site was excavated by Devala Mitra of Archaeological Survey of India from 1958 to 61. The excavation extending over 4 years brought to limelight a spectacular Buddhist monastic establishment spreading over the entire hillock in the time bracket 5th century CE to 13th century CE, to the utter surprise of the local people and academia world. Local people believed that the mounds in the hillock contained the palace complex of a mythical king and the monastery area was known as Rani Pokhari due to the presence of water in the depression above the central courtyard. Unlike Lalitgiri, the site was also anciently known as Ratnagiri, as known from terracotta monastic seals discovered during the excavation that bore the inscription Sri Ratnagiri Mahavihara Arya Bhikkhu Sanghasya. The excavation brought to limelight an impressive brick built stupa on the top of the hillock, surrounded by a large number of smaller structural and monolithic votive stupas, a single winged monastery, two large square monasteries, remains of 8 temples, overwhelming number of sculptures of Mahayana and Vajrayana pantheons, as many as astounding more than 700 monolithic votive stupas, along with large assemblies of potteries and antiquities of terracotta, glass and metal. The excavator Devala Mitra, taking into account its dimension and overwhelming cultural repository, rightly compared the monastic establishment of Ratnagiri with Nalanda, and went ahead to state that in the overwhelming number of monoliths stupas, Ratnagiri can compete even with Bodh Gaya. In the absence of any direct historical record or any archaeological evidence about the authorship of this massive establishment, the account of Lama Taranath of Tibet shed some light ascribing authorship of Gupta king Narasimha Gupta Baladitya of 5th century CE, who had been identified with Buddha Pakhya by the renowned Buddhist scholar Nalinakhya Dutt. Buddhist literature credit Buddha Pakhya with the construction of a monastery on the crest of a hill that accommodate 500 monks and with extermination of the Huns who were anti-Buddhist. The material culture of the site starting from 5th century as ascertained from the excavation corroborates to such hypothesis. After Buddha Pakhya, the monastic establishment received patronage from Shailadhavas, who were the ruling dynasties during 7th century CE, extending land grants as known from their copper plate charters. According to Taranath, during the reign of a king named Buddhapakya, a Bihara named Ratnagiri was built on a hill near the sea in Orissa. A famous library was maintained there with 3 sets of Mahayana and Hinayana Shastras, and there were 8 great groups of Dharma with 500 monks. But the name Buddhapakya is not mentioned in any other historical record so far discovered. According to Taranath, he was the king of Varanasi who flourished before Harsha, long before Pala kings of Gopala. The heyday of Ratnagiri, however, coincided with rule of Bhaumakaras, whose some of the early rulers were devout followers of Buddhism. King Sobhakradev I is credited with sending an envoy to the court of Chinese Emperor Taisang to present a Buddhist manuscript to the emperor. A copper plate charter discovered from village Ratnagiri mentions the gift of village known as Uttara Tosali to Rani Karpurasri. The charter was issued by the Somavanshi king Karna towards the end of 11th century for the maintenance of Rani Karpurasri, who very likely lived in the monastery of Ratnagiri. This closely indicates that even during the rule of Somavanshis, who were Brahmanical patronage due to their faith, these Buddhist establishments received royal patronage due to their eclectic religious pursuits.